Well, good morning, everyone. Happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there. Now, do you believe in miracles? That is an iconic line from the sportscaster Al Michaels in the 1980 Winter Olympic Games. Do you remember that? Right, the underdog U.S. hockey team went up against the powerhouse Soviets, and against all odds, the Americans won the game. And Michaels was overcome with emotion as he exclaimed, "Do you believe in miracles?" And since then, that game has been dubbed the Miracle on Ice. Although I'm not 100% certain that the outcome was actually miraculous, it's a good question. It's a good question. Do you believe in miracles? And for me, the answer is yes. Yes, I believe in miracles. But what is a miracle? You know, the Oxford Dictionary defines a miracle as an unexpected and welcome event that is inexplicable through the laws of science or nature and is therefore attributed to the work of a divine agency. That's kind of a mouthful, right? And I think there's actually too many qualifiers in that definition. I think it should be shortened to say just a miracle is the work of a divine agency. I think that's a much better and more succinct definition, except for the fact that never in my life have I used the word divine agency to describe God. No, I think a miracle is quite simply the work of God. And we see so many examples of it in the Gospels. Jesus turning water into wine, or walking on the water, or raising Lazarus from the dead, just to name a few. But I don't think we need to go back to biblical times to find examples of miracles. I think they happen all the time. And they're not always surprising. They're not always inexplicable, but they are always the work of God in our lives, and they always require our cooperation. And sometimes, maybe even often, they happen slowly. Now, since it's Father's Day, I thought I would share with you the first time that I really recognized that miraculous work of God in my life. And it happened on August 16th, 1993. It was not a particularly extraordinary event, but it was one of the most awesome days in my life. It's the day that my son Andrew was born, and it was nothing short of a miracle. I mean, just 9 months before that, he was no more than a hope and a prayer for my wife, Carrie, and I. And yet on that day, after 30 hours of labor, he emerged as a fully formed human being. Now, he still had quite a bit of growing to do. He had a pretty good head start, came in at 10 pounds. But I remember holding him in my arms for the very first time and looking into his face and realizing that although I had never seen him before in my life, I loved him beyond measure, with a love that is indescribable, a love unlike any other love that I had ever experienced. And I remember thinking, God did this. God did it. Yes, Carrie and I cooperated, of course. Carrie's cooperation was maybe a little bit more involved than mine. But God did it. And I was thinking, I don't understand how anybody could ever witness the birth of a child and claim to be atheist. Because new life is so obviously the work of God. The birth of a child, of any child, is nothing short of a miracle. And yes, we can explain and understand it scientifically and medically, but it's a miracle. And it's a miracle that takes a long time, months from conception to birth. But the time that it takes and the scientific and medical knowledge we have about it does nothing to diminish the miraculous nature of the event. And in the gospel passage that we just heard, Jesus gives us two parables that kind of deal with the miracle of life. Now, it's not human life, but it is life nonetheless, life created by God. And it is nothing short of a miracle that the seed sown by the farmer slowly grows to become the grain for the harvest. And it is nothing short of a miracle that that tiny mustard seed, when sown, grows to become this large plant with sturdy branches. And that's how God works in our lives, through slow-moving miracles hidden in our day-to-day experiences. Now, sometimes God does work a surprising and inexplicable miracle. We saw this recently when a young woman was cured of a brain hemorrhage through the intercession of Blessed Carlo Acutis, soon to be Saint Carlo Acutis. But most often, God works slowly. We are called to plant the seeds, to set the thing in motion, and God can do the rest. So, when you look at your own life, where do you see those slow-moving miracles of God working in your life? Is it in the birth of your children or grandchildren or siblings or nieces and nephews? Is it in your garden, the new growth in your garden? Is it in a chance encounter with a stranger who becomes a lifelong friend or a loved one? We plant the seeds. God causes the growth. God works the miracles. And that's how discipleship works too. We're all called to be disciples of Christ Jesus, which means we're called to share the good news of Jesus with others so that they can also encounter him and have a relationship with him. And when we do that, we are planting seeds. And when we can share with our friends and our family members how God is at work in our lives, when we can share those stories of the slow motion miracles that show evidence of God in our lives, we are planting seeds. And when we plant the seeds, then God can do that work of growing those seeds and bringing them to harvest. And so this morning, as we gather together as a community of faith to share this most sacred meal, let's pause for a moment and thank God for those slow motion miracles that he works in our lives. Let us plant the seeds of faith by sharing those stories with others. And let us participate, therefore, in God's next slow motion miracle.